What is up, and welcome back to another episode of the Wizards Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Finberg. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about another loss for the Wizards. It's their seventh straight loss. Again, this was pretty expected on MLK Day. It was a 3 o'clock start, so pretty early in the afternoon. But yeah, the Clippers coming to town, a team that you had just faced a couple of days earlier on the second game of that West Coast trip, and a bad first quarter, but they had played them pretty tough through the rest of the game. Obviously, ended up losing by double digits, but thought at home, no Kawhi Leonard, who had 30 plus when they beat the Wizards a couple of days ago, that the Wizards had a much better chance, especially after they had a better effort in Denver the other night. And I was right. They played a lot better today. Ended up losing by four, a game that they had multiple shots to win it in the end, but couldn't come up when it mattered. Kyshawn George was really good, but again, he had some wide open looks really to give the Wizards the lead and tie the game at the end, and he just couldn't make them. So Wizards lose 110 to 106, and as usual, I'll be here to break it down. It was a game that was sort of dominated early by Sarr, and you see a lot with Alex where in the beginning of games, like he did it, I think it was against Sacramento, where he dominated pretty early in that game. I think he had like 18 at halftime, and in the second half they made adjustments to shut him down. He had 1 point the rest of the game. But when you're able to kind of put together two halves like he did tonight, it's really impressive. And in the first half, I think he had 18 points, and he finished with 28 points on 10 and 19 from the field. He was scoring from multiple different ways as well. You know, down low against Zubats, who's a pretty solid defender in his own right. But Alex, in the short roll, would get down low on the block and be able to sort of score inside. And then there was a couple pick and pops where Zubats was in drop coverage and sort of saying, "Hey, if you want the mid range, you can take it." And Sarr did take it, and he made a couple. So I like that versatility. And it's if they're going to take something away, and obviously they'd rather have Sarr further away from the basket than closer. You need to be able to have some counters, and I thought Alex kind of showcased that he does have those counters and is sort of developing them today. So he was clearly the best player for the Wizards. Again, pretty standard at 6 boards, which you'd like to see him be way more active on the glass, especially after he had four in his first 10 minutes on the floor in the first quarter. So 2 rebounds over the last 3 quarters. Again, as a 7 footer, you'd like to see a little bit better there, but had a block. It was a pretty impressive block. Sort of came flying in to swat the ball. Had 2 steals as well. So he's giving you a lot offensively, nearly 30 points. But also on the defensive end, he's obviously holding his own like he typically does. So I thought he was the best player for Washington in this game. A game that, the Wizards were, I think it was tied 26 after the end of the first quarter. Sort of a back and forth game, really close for the most part. Neither team could separate. The Wizards did take a decent lead in the fourth quarter. And in the third too, but just turnovers. They had a period where they had the lead. They turned the ball over. I think it was 78-71. They turned the ball over 5 out of 6 possessions. A couple from Champagnie. I think Bub had one in there. Keyshawn had one in there as well. And that obviously allowed the Clippers to kind of make their way back into the game. But it was competitive, and these are the sort of games that you want when you're tanking. It's the same thing that I said about the Denver game is, yes, you want to lose games, but you don't want to be getting blown out like they had been the first 3 games of that West Coast trip, where you're not really competitive, you're just playing bad basketball and sort of just going through the motions. You're not really seeing too much development, you're not seeing too much good from your team out there, and the really only good result is that you're losing, which helps you keep your pick. But in the Denver game, and especially in today's game, the Wizards were right there. I thought they played a lot better defensively than you had seen those first 3 games of the West Coast trip, in which they lost those games by double digits. I thought they played better as a team, and I thought that the young guys were really the ones that stuck out. And that's the best part about these quality tanking losses is, yes, you're competitive, you're playing good basketball, you're developing, and in the end, you're losing instead of winning a close game you probably could have won. But the cherry on top of that, I think, is when your success is because of the guys that you recently drafted. And that was the case today. I mean, I tweeted it out, but like I mentioned with the young core, I mean, Sarr led the way with 28 on 10 of 19 from the field, was a plus 11 in a 4 point loss. Again, the Wizards are winning his minutes pretty efficiently. Kyshawn George with 18, 6 and 6, 3 steals as well, efficient shooting. I think it was 6 of 15 or 6 of 14. Bub, 17.7 assists, 6 boards, 7 of 12 from the field. Trey Johnson, 15 points, career high 5 assists. So you like to see that playmaking. 50% from the field, was a plus 14 again in a 4 point loss. The Wizards won his minutes and they won the starting minutes. I thought the bench was sort of what let him down tonight, which is rare because the bench has been pretty good this year. So like counting stats wise, those are what sticks out to me, and I'm obviously going to choose to look at more so the positives than the negatives because there's going to be growing pains. Like Keyshawn George or Bub Carrington turned the ball over. I think they combined for 11 turnovers. I mean, I can check the box right now. But Keyshawn, yes, he had 6 assists, but he had 6 turnovers. Bub Carrington, 7 assists, but 5 turnovers. And I tweeted like the last game, Bub had a stretch where he had 14 assists to just 2 turnovers, a 7-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. And today's game, it's a 7-to-5 assist to turnover ratio. So he's finding his teammates, and it seems like he knows what he needs to do. He knows where the ball needs to be. It's just a matter of getting it there, getting it on time, making the right reads, and same thing goes for Key. I thought they forced a lot of stuff today, which is to be expected, I guess. I think Bub's better served as a combo guard, more off ball. Again, with the lack of depth and Bilal being out, you traded CJ, Trae Young's out. Like they've been asking Bub the last 2 games to start at point guard, so he's playing true point, and it's sort of you're seeing what you saw turnover wise in the beginning of the year. He went to the bench. He was a combo guard, not necessarily asked to be this main ball handler, and the turnovers, of course, went down. So same thing with Key. When he gets a true point guard, I'm not going to be too concerned about it, but they're being aggressive. They were making plays, and I thought with the starters in, that's when the Wizards were at their best. Bub Carrington at the end of the game, I will say, he got the ball in transition. Wizards, I think we're down 2 with, roughly 9 seconds left. I respect, Bub being very unselfish. He decided to pass it off to Key, who took a transition three. Great look, open, missed it. But Bub, before had just hit a side step three a minute earlier to tie the game. And he had an open look. So again, I'm not faulting him for getting it to an even better shot, but he had the three, and I would have liked to see him take that. I guess in future games, be confident in yourself at the end. Um, but again, like I liked how he was able to get open looks for teammates. I liked how he was able to get to his spots. So, the last couple of games, you sort of saw Bub Carrington, not be able to create the way he had been when he had that stretch of games where he was the best he had been since his rookie year. And you're starting to sort of see that recently with his move back into the starting lineup. I think he fits well with a lot of those players, especially Sarr in the pick and roll. 6 boards as well. Again, you knew coming out of the draft he was going to be a good rebounder, but I thought he rebounded pretty well today. And then you obviously got Trey Johnson, efficient 15, 30 minutes, 3 of 7 from 3, 5 assists, again, like I mentioned, career high, plus 14. But I really like the fact that in the beginning of the game, right, they chased him off the 3-point line. He got to that float game. He did that on multiple occasions, and that's sort of a shot that he's developing, which is great. You need to have, like I mentioned with Sarr, you need to have counters. And guys know now that Trey's a knockdown 3-point shooter, nearly 40%. They're going to close out hard. And so he's now using a pump fake, getting to the lane, taking mid-range, or finding an open teammate with a bounce pass if he is able to track the drop defender. And so those are the things you want to see development-wise, and that's sort of what I took away. And then obviously he's able to step out, and he was able to make some tough shots from the outside. And so plus 14 is the best part to me. It shows that they're winning his minutes. It shows that a lot of people are saying he's defensive liability. Again, I'm not coming out here and defending him and saying he's the all-world defense. But the team is playing better recently with Trey. And it's a really good response from his game last night or 2 nights ago against Denver, which was his worst game as a rookie. 1 of 10 from the field. And like I mentioned in that game, it's not like Trey got shots or took shots that he otherwise hadn't in the past when he had been making them. They didn't fall. Second ever back-to-back, tired legs, it's possible. But it's nice to see a response like this tonight from Trey, one of his better games of his rookie season, played really under control, and really liked that he was able to counter those hard closeouts. He's going to have to do that throughout his career. So that was nice to see from the young core. Like I mentioned, the Wizards had a chance to win at the end. You had Kyshawn, who had a nice look from the mid-range with about a minute and a half left, didn't hit that. And then obviously you have Kyshawn with that open look. And I think Keefe, after the end of the game, was asked about it. And he said, look, we got good looks. Kyshawn will make them in the future. He just didn't make them tonight. And he's not wrong. They were good looks. Harden obviously took over, and he was really good tonight. But I didn't mind the performance. One thing I did mind with Keefe, and again, I did see a lot of people commenting this on my post game tweet, so I know that I'm not alone in this. Is the Wizards were down two. Obviously, Keyshawn George misses the three. Harden gets the board. Middleton fouls him. So at this point, I think there's 6 seconds, 5.9 seconds left in the game. 108, 106 Clippers. James Harden misses the first. He'd been 14 to 14 all night. Had to miss the free throw and misses the first. So obviously, Wizards have a timeout. You have the ability to sub, and Brian Keefe does sub, but he subs in Jameer Watkins for Trey Johnson. Keeps Bub Carrington there. That's fine. Again, like he's going to be outside on the perimeter, and you're probably going to call timeout anyway. So at this point, right, you just need a rebound. If he makes it, he makes it. But if not, you need to be prepared in case there's a rebound. Because clearly putting Jameer in for Trey signaled from Brian Keefe that, make or miss, we're calling a timeout here because you're not going to have Jameer Watkins in the game when you need a bucket. You're going to have Trey Johnson in over him 10 times out of 10. So that was sort of like a defense for offense swap, but more so a rebounding for offense swap. So clearly Keefe had that in his mind, like we need rebounders. So my question is, why isn't Justin Champagnie, your best rebounder, not on the floor? Why is Marvin Bagley, your other best rebounder, apart from Sarr, obviously, who's 7 foot, not on the floor? Like, all you need to do is grab one rebound if they miss. And if they don't, that's fine. You're down three, you call a timeout. All you needed was one miss, you got it. But that lack of situational awareness to sort of not put your best rebounders in when that's like all you need. And the worst case scenario is that they miss, they get the board, you foul, and then you don't have a chance to tie the game. You had Middleton there on the low block, and I don't know if he was the one that got beat. It was just him and obviously, Sarr on the low block, George in there as well, but the ball just falls to Harden. That's like the first thing you learn is someone's got to take the shooter when you're boxing out. No one takes the shooter. They missed the assignment. Keefe said it after the game. They asked him what went on in the offensive rebound. He was like, just didn't execute, missed the assignment, which again it's like coach speak. There's not really much substance in there. He's basically, without saying it, saying we messed up. It's basically, what are we going to do? We'll be better next time. I would have liked to see someone follow up on that and ask, why you decided to go with that personnel at that stretch of the game instead of putting in Bagley and Champagnie, two of your most short-handed rebounders. And I understand it seems like I'm like harping on a minuscule detail, but like let's say that they do that and Keefe, instead of trying to get out Trey Johnson for Jameer Watkins, also subs out Middleton for Champagnie, one of your best rebounders, or for Bagley. And that way you grab the board, there's 6 seconds left, and you're down two with a chance to tie or take the lead. Like, those are the little things that you need to have going if you're going to win games in this league. And we've seen it earlier in the year when Brian Keefe told Kyshawn George to foul when he shouldn't. We've seen similar stuff at the end of games where Keefe shows that he's not there yet in terms of being a game manager and in terms of an NBA coach needing to understand the situation and the time and know that they need their best rebounders on the floor. And if Champagnie's in there, maybe they get the board. It's not a sure thing, but I think it's a better percentage they do than if Chris Middleton is in the game. I can tell you that. So that was one thing that I noted. And obviously Harden misses both, but gets the rebound. It's the most Wizards thing to ever happen. And then obviously they foul him. He makes both. And at that point, 3 seconds left, call a timeout. The game is over. Then you have the inbounds play where it was going to be a 5-second because the Clippers read it all the way and they knew the Wizards would go for the three, obviously. And it's a turnover. So again, that compounds on those issues with that ATO. Forced pass to Sarr. Nothing Alex can do. Just a turnover, and that's the end of the game. But again, would have liked to see Champagnie or Bagley on the floor when all the team really needed was a rebound. That's just my take. Apart from that, obviously, like I mentioned, I thought the starters were the ones that really carried this team. The bench sort of let them down. If you look at two guys who played a lot of minutes for the Clippers, Cam Christie off the bench, 20 minutes, was a plus 16. Jordan Miller, who was great, 16 points for them, plus 19. All of their bench players were a net positive, and apart from John Collins, all of their starters were a net negative. Even Harden, who had 36 and shot 20 free throws, which is egregious, he was a -3. But you look at the Wizards starters, plus 6, plus 4, plus 11, plus 3, plus 14. They all excelled. And then obviously every single person on the bench was a double-digit minus. I didn't think this was one of Champagnie's finer games, 9-4, but again, 3 turnovers, and it was, I think he had 2 of those in that 5 out of 6, 5 and 6 turnover, 5 turnovers in 6 possessions. So like he wasn't terrible by any standards, but for his standards, I think he could have played a lot better. Bagley, 6 points, 8 boards. Again, was solid in terms of that, but 4 turnovers. It was the turnovers are what cost the Wizards this game, and it was really just between four guys: George, Carrington, Champagnie, and Bagley combined for 18 of the Wizards' 19 turnovers. Like they ranked 28th in the league for a reason. They're 10-32 for a reason. And if I can make it a key to the game every time, I would. I don't want to do it, but if they don't turn the ball over, they win this game and they win the Denver game and they win a bunch of other games. But when it mattered most and when they had a chance to sort of take a big double-digit lead, they just couldn't stop turning the ball over. Turned it over 20 times today. And so when that's the case, obviously, you're not going to be able to bury the team. They let him back in the game with those turnovers. I mean, the Clippers got like 4 or 5 fast break, wide open layups to get themselves back in the game. So when that's the case, that's you're not going to be able to win games in this league. And Clippers are playing well, but I thought the Wizards sort of handed them this game with the way that they were pretty careless with the ball. That goes mainly for guys like Bub and Keyshawn. Like they had the assists, but don't let that fool you from the fact that they have to be a lot better and a lot smarter with their reads and with the ball. Because at times today, while they played well, I thought the one blunder was that they were careless. And obviously, you can't have that when you're trying to win games. I actually liked the minutes from Jameer Watkins. He only had 1 point. But 7 boards, which is awesome, 2 of which were offensive. Got a block in there. Really enjoyed his defense. There was one play in transition where he like stunted a Kriston and caused him to lose the ball in a 3-on-1. I'm not saying that was all or not Jameer Watkins, but he stopped a 3-on-1 fast break, and I thought he played pretty solid defense on Harden. So I didn't mind those minutes from him. But again, I thought this was a game dominated by Washington starters, and I would have honestly liked to see them pull it out. I thought that they could have, but like I mentioned, in the end, it's a quality tank loss. It's probably as good of a tanking loss as you can get because they executed when they needed to. They had the open looks. Kyshawn George missed, I think, 2 wide open 3s in the final 2 minutes. The first was impeccable ball movement, a really good last minute swing or last second swing by Sarr to get from a good look to a great look, and Key just didn't knock it down, was flat on it. And then the open look again at the end with about 12 seconds left to take the lead flat. So look, Key could have been a lot better in terms of his execution and shot making, but I thought as a team, the Wizards played well. They hung tough with a Clippers team that I think, what have they won? 13 of their last 15 games. They're 19-23 after a 6-21 start. Like they battled against a really solid Clippers team, and they couldn't pull it out. And I think at the end, these types of games are probably the ones that are most ideal for the Wiz, most ideal for the tank, and what I think most fans are looking for. Like, give them a good game, give them a good product, but obviously with that pick in mind, a loss is probably better than a win, and that was the case today. So again, 110-106, the Wizards lose to the Clippers. Checking in on the tanking standings, the Wizards again at 10-32. It's same wins. They have 10. Indiana has 10. Pelicans have 10. But 35 losses for the Pelicans, 33 for the Pacers, and 32 for the Wizards. It's not like they're separated by much, other than the fact that the Wizards have played the least amount of games. They've lost 7 in a row after that 7-5 stretch. Again, none of these games I think were like games they should have won, or on the schedule you looked at it and said they should win this game. Like at Philadelphia versus maybe the Pelicans at home, but again off the heels of the Trae Young trade, they came out flat in that one. You could argue that they should have won and definitely not lost by 20 to the Pelicans. But then you have the 4 games on that road trip: Phoenix, LA, Sacramento, and Denver. Lost all of them home against LA. They got Denver on Thursday, which again is probably a loss. And then they got Charlotte on the road, which they might be able to win, but the Hornets are actually playing pretty good basketball. So like I mentioned again, quality tank loss puts the Wizards pretty far in sort of the bottom 3. And it seems like those 3 are the ones separating themselves a little bit from the rest of the pack. You have obviously Brooklyn and Sacramento at 12 wins. Charlotte's playing good basketball, 5-5 of their last 10. They have 16. I don't think that they are really a factor at all in terms of that. But the Jazz underneath them are 14-28. They've lost 3 in a row. They are tanking as well. So I think the Wizards are in a good spot in terms of wanting to keep their pick. Again, only a game over the halfway point. It's not like it's anything to worry about too much now. But they're 10-32, and the next game is Thursday against the Denver Nuggets. I don't believe they'll have Jokic. We'll see if Bilal's back again. He was out again tonight with back stiffness, third straight game that Tristan Vukcevic has missed as well. And obviously Trae Young's still out with the MCL and quad injuries. I would assume, again, he's going to be out through the All-Star break. Maybe they get Tristan back. Doubt he would have played much today if he was healthy. And maybe they get Bilal back because I think they definitely missed some of his defense on the perimeter. But again, Wizards fall 110 to 106. Young core played really well. I thought Alex Sarr was phenomenal with 28 points. Trey Johnson, Bub Carrington played really well as a backcourt tandem, were efficient in terms of their shots. Kyshawn George as well. But again, him and Bub have to put those turnovers aside. They got to pull them down and sort of be way more smart with the ball and less careless with it as well. Thought Keefe probably should have put Bagley or Champagne in, but he didn't. And it's not exactly why the Wizards lost, but like if he did, I think they certainly get the board and they have a chance to win the game. And wasn't the case. So Wizards fall 10-32. We'll be back on Thursday night to recap that game against the Denver Nuggets. That's going to do it for this episode. Like this thing as always. Go Wiz.